Simpson County Fiscal Court to order. We're glad to have with us today Pastor Eric Walker from Franklin Community Church. And Brother Walker, if you'd make your way up toward the microphone, we're going to let you open up our meeting with prayer, and we'll follow that with the pledge to the flag. We're glad to finally have you here. I've been trying for a year to get him here. And he said we have our meetings too early for him to show up.
They are early. First of all, man, I promise you it is an honor to get this opportunity to come pray for our county, Simpson County, not just the county, but to get to pray for each individual here. I had the opportunity to spend time with a lot of you guys, and I don't think many people know what you guys do, and so to come and pray for you and just appreciate you is an honor for me to lift you guys up in prayer. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this opportunity, this time, to lift up those that are here today. And Father, I just pray that you would continue to give them spiritual wisdom and revelation to lead this county the way you have called them to lead it. But most of all, Father, I pray for their personal lives. I pray for their family. I pray that you lift up their family, because all the work and all the time and all the effort that they put in to make that our county be a better place, sometimes we neglect our own family. And so, God, I just pray that you continue to lift up their family. I pray that you would watch over them, you would lead them, that you would guide them, and that you would protect them in every way that you can. And most of all, Father, I just pray that you would also remind them that you are the God of the county, and that you are the one that will make sure that everything will be okay. Most of all, Father, we want to thank you for the greatest gift that you can give us, more than money and more than time. It is your Son, Jesus Christ, and we thank you for that. We thank you that he died on the cross for the forgiveness of our sins, and that he rose from the grave, that we can have life and we can have hope and we can have peace. And so, Father, I want to remind us that we'll never forget the reason why we're here is because you have given us the opportunity to be here. So I pray that we take this time, this moment here, to reflect on what you have done. And the reason why we're here to have this meeting is because what your Son done on the cross. Lift up their families, continue to watch over them, continue to lead them. And thank you so much for your mercy. We thank you for your grace. And we thank you for the opportunity to have life. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Brother Eric, thank you. All right, we'll move on. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on with the agenda here. We start with the Sheriff's 2019 fee settlement, and we have Ms. Jada Freeman here with us to share that. How you doing this morning?
Doing well. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
I am here to not take up too much of your time to present an update of the Sheriff's Office 2019 fee settlement. Last year was a busy year. We collected over $851,000. Of that, a little over $5,000 was turned over to Iowa. We had a court order from them to collect and turn over to them a garnishment for a resident in the county. So we were that filter for them. Of that, we turned over just over $846,000 to fiscal court. That is a bit of an increase from 2018, 32,000 more than that year. So we were pretty busy, had a good year, no hiccups. So look forward to a really good 2020 year. And that's all I have for you. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you.
Anyone have any questions? Do we, Sam, we don't make a motion on this, do we? Just acknowledge that it's presented? We accept it as presented?
Yeah, just motion to accept as presented.
Okay.
Motion made.
All right, so we have a motion to accept the sheriff's fee settlement as presented. Second by Myron. Motion by Nate, second by Myron.
Yes.
Yes.
Scott Poston.
Yes.
Marty Chandler.
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. Next on the agenda, I know we have some folks here from the Soil Conservation, and Chad Cono said he was going to be speaking to us this morning. So Chad, I'll have you come up. They're going to have a budget presentation for us. Chad, it's good to see you.
Good to see you. We appreciate y'all letting us be here today. What you're receiving here is our proposed budget for July 1st, 20 through June 30th of 21.
Okay.
If you'll just look down through there, what we're asking for is $80,000, right there under the general operating funds. We do not have any direct aid figured in because we don't know yet if that's coming through or not. So that's still up in the air. Restricted funds, the environmental grant of $7,500 from the state and the CAPE funds of $65,000. What I'd like to say about the CAPE funds is the only thing we receive out of that is for the publicizing and that kind of work. We don't get anything out of those funds to put as far as work that we do through that. It's administrative only, and it's a percentage of that. That money still comes from the tobacco settlement. And that money will be there as long as there's tobacco here in the United States. When that money is gone, this office has no money to hand out to anyone who applies for this. And in my opinion, that money's going to be leaving sooner than later.
When you say, and this was a question that come up yesterday, yesterday at the FFA breakfast. When you say as long as there's tobacco in the United States, that money will be here, do we have any idea of how much tobacco crops have declined over, say, the past 10 years?
I know for this next growing season, there's been, some of them we're talking about being cut up to 43% of their poundage.
Really?
Now, I don't keep up with the tobacco as I should, but that's where this money comes from. This money was orchestrated years ago to fund these smaller projects for these tobacco growers. It's not just for the tobacco growers. We can use this money in many different ways from other than the agriculture community, and that's what we're striving to do. What our goal is to have enough money to continue this program when the tobacco money is no longer there. There are several counties who do this. They do their CAPE through the tobacco money, and then they also have the funds to go ahead and administer another round of it by the same guidelines. So that is our goal, is to always have this money not only for the agriculture community, but the city. We can work with the industrial authority. We can work with many different people in the community. And I think that's been the problem that a lot of people don't understand. We're there for more than just the agriculture sector. And that's what I want this board to understand when we're asking for this money to make our budget work. We're not only working for just one group of people. We're working the whole city and the county. And due to some faults of our own in the past, we may not have got that out there. We may not have been clear about it, but we're willing to do whatever we can to make this work. But we have to have the money or the door's closed, plain and simple. If we can't operate, it doesn't matter if we're getting $65,000 of the CAPE money. That money's going to be funded, but if there's nobody to hand it out, they're going to take it back. We spend every bit of it. There's nothing left at the end of the term because we don't want to send it back, because you can get cut. If you send back, you may get cut the next year. If you look down, personnel, all of that is pretty much a mirrored image of last year's budget. Nothing changed there. Operating expenses, pretty much the same as last year. When you flip over on the back, drop down to trees and tree bags. We had to take that completely out. That are the seedlings that we give away on the square during Earth Day. They won't be here this year. There won't be any trees to give away. We had to find somewhere to cut the budget, and that's what we cut out. If you look at education and promotion, that was $9,000 last year. This year it's $2,616. We can't be in the schools promoting soil conservation, water quality, and all of that because we don't have the funds. Now, we have been getting TVA grants, but we don't know if we're going to get those. That's where we've been spending that money, is through TVA, going into the schools and teaching those kids and those teachers about water quality and so forth. But we don't know if we're getting those because you've got to fill out and wait for it.
Right.
The 2616 there that's figured in for education and promotion is for community events only. So the school's not going to see Michelle or anybody, any one of us this year. We're not going to be there without the funds. If you look on down the Cape, of course that's on the front side, the local cost share, environmental grant from the state. Then if you drop down to equipment, excuse me, we've got $6,035 punched in there. The reason that is we've got to update our computers this year. Can't function without the computers. So we've filled in 6 there. And then if you go on down, you see the total of $163.35 for our total expenditures. You all have any questions on this? The ones I can't answer, Michelle can.
No, I mean, this is information we need, because, I mean, obviously here pretty soon, we're gonna start the whole budget process for the county, so we'll just, as we done last year, we're gonna do everything we can.
I understand. We, with the 80,000, you know, at the end of the year, we'll be zero balance. Without that, we'll be in the red. But I think you all can figure that out by looking at the budget. But just reiterate, we have to be there.
That's considering you don't get any direct aid.
Yeah, but direct aid, what is direct aid?
About 10,000.
About 10.
Last year, the only reason we were in the black, or this fiscal year, is because we received direct aid. Otherwise, we would have been in the red.
But the Cape funds you're gonna give out to the community is $65,000.
Yeah, that's what was allotted to us. Well, that's got the admin in it too. A little bit of the admin will come out for promotion meetings that we have to do. But you're still looking at somewhere around probably 62,000 to be administered to as many folks as we can.
We're waiting for the exact total. They haven't given us, because it hasn't come out. It usually comes out in April when we know exactly what Cape funds are.
But I can assure you, it's not going to be another $10,000. It's going to be real close to what she's got plugged in here.
Yes.
It doesn't vary much from year to year. Any other questions?
From Cape admin, it's 5% of the total. And that's all we have for Cape admin. And if we don't spend all of that money, then it has to be returned. It is not something that goes into our general funds. It's a restricted fund. So if we don't spend it, it goes back.
Chad, I don't really have any other questions. Like I said, I know we will soon be getting into the budget planning for the entire county. And obviously, it's like every year, we have to make a lot of decisions on not just soil conservation, but everything.
Understand.
But as we promised last year, we're going to do everything we can to try to make sure that things work for the soil conservation.
Well, I just want you as a board to know that it's not just on the agriculture side of this. You know, we're working with several different things, not just agriculture.
Can you give the 2-minute version of what all type of things soil conservation helps with?
And we got so much going on, 2 minutes and you'll cover it.
2.5?
The big thing is promotion, promoting this office. We have never been promoted like we're promoting it now. There's the CAPE program is just huge. It covers anything from bees to technology.
I mean, but literally, if someone's raising a garden, they can contact the soil conservation office and
there is things that they can do through us and receive cost share money through the CAPE form. The CAPE thing is so broad that we'd be here all day going through what CAPE does, but we cover everything.
Okay. Gentlemen, y'all have any questions?
But I will say, I'm on the board, and I go every month, and I get to hear what all they do, where all Michelle gets to go, and she does stay very busy, going to different places to speak, and I feel like she does a really good job. I know we have used them on some water problems at one of the subdivisions in my district, so they were very helpful there, so I'll say that.
We're here to make the community better. Water is very important. Water quality is even more important. And as as things are built, as subdivisions come in, you've got less and less places for water to run off and to be clean water. And we're willing to focus our time in that aspect to make the community what it needs to be and make it a viable community for people to live in.
Sounds good.
Thank you all.
All right, thanks, Terry.
Take care.
All right, moving on, regular business. Gentlemen, if you had an opportunity to review the minutes of our February 4th regular meeting, I just need a motion and a second to approve those minutes.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Myron, second by Nate.
Yes.
Nathaniel Jones,
Yes.
Marty Taylor,
Abstain.
Scott Poston,
Yes.
Mason Barnes,
Yes. Next, gentlemen, if you had an opportunity to review the minutes of our February 4th special called joint city-county meeting, we need a motion and a second to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Scott, second by Nate.
Scott Poston,
Yes.
Nathaniel Jones,
Yes.
Marty Taylor,
Abstain.
Myron Thurman,
Yes.
Mason Barnes,
Next is to review or approve the second reading and passage of fiscal year 1920 budget amendment number 5, ordinance number 220.212. I think we discussed this at our last meeting. We had the first reading. No changes or variances from what was in that meeting.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion by Myron, second by Nate.
Myron Thurman,
Yes.
Nathaniel Jones,
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Scott Poston,
Yes.
Mason Barnes,
Yes. Next is to review or approve the reappointment of Ray Mann to the Simpson County Water District Board. Ray Mann's term expires April 14th of 2020. He's been a good board member to the Water District and is willing to serve one more 4-year term, which would make that term expire April 14th of 2024. Got a motion by Scott to approve the reappointment of Ray Mann.
Second.
Second by Myron.
Scott Poston,
Yes.
Myron Thurman,
Yes.
Nathaniel Jones,
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Mason Barnes,
Yes. Next is to review and approve resolution number 2020-02-18, KOHS. It's a grant application for the Sheriff's Department for vests. Sheriff, if you want to talk about it, you're welcome to, but I believe this would afford us 12 vests at an amount of approximately $9,250.
There's not much to say on that. It's Homeland Security grant. We apply every year. Basically, vests will expire. They're fitted to each individual, and we usually run about a year behind in getting vests to the guys. It's money that Homeland Security gives you where your guns are confiscated, that are awarded to an agency. We don't keep them anymore. They go to the state police, they sell it, and they use that to buy vests for police officers. So any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Do I have to sign that grant? Will the motion need to authorize the judge executive to sign that?
Yeah, there's
grant application
town
or
has a
resolution?
form. There's a form they send. That is one of those that comes.
So, are there any questions?
all I have is the resolution of somebody
Well-
else. The application will also be.
We'd make the motion to approve the grant application and authorize the judge executive to sign any necessary documents.
So moved.
I heard Marty and Nate at the same time.
It don't matter.
You move on second.
Marty made the motion, Nate seconded.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Nathaniel Young,
Yes.
Scott Poston.
Yes.
Meyer. Jason Barnes.
Yes. Next, gentlemen, is the opportunity for another grant. I don't believe this grant necessarily requires a resolution, but it does require us to authorize the application and the judge executive to sign any necessary documents. It's a crumb rubber grant. Bobby will share some more details, but it would basically would pave half of Loving Chapel Road, and we would have to pave the other half with typical regular asphalt, but I'll let Bobby talk about it.
This, I looked into this last year, and did not apply because of the cost I got on it. But they only do 5 or 6 of these throughout the state, and it's I think it has 24,000 or 12,000 square yards it covers. The reason I was going to suggest Loving Chapel is it probably would not be on our list this coming year. I'd probably wait another year or two. But when they go to look at these, they look at the location, the traffic count, where it's at. And so with it being a connector road between 2 state highways and as close to the interstate, I think it may give us some advantage. There's 2 things though we need to decide on though. If you apply for it, if you get it, they will pay, which would approximately do half of Loving Chapel. We would be required to pay the other half of it, or you have to pay a comparable road in that area with the traditional surface. Loving Chapel just happens to work out where it would do half of it, because you have to keep a 5-year record on it. You have to mark it as what it's in that program. They monitor it for 5 years, and they want the comparison to it.
And Loving Chapel has a serious issue on it that needs to be fixed.
It has some problems.
Bad.
It amounts to about traditional surface, about half that road, I think I figured be close to 60,000, somewhere in that area.
Now, when this says 25% local match, with us doing the other half of the road,
That's what
cover that
my
25%?
understanding is that part you
Towards the
put in
25%.
goes to
Okay.
that.
Yeah, the part we would pave would be our match.
Okay.
There's a meeting that one of the Brad officials is going to before this has to be sent in, because they'll help us with it, and they're supposed to get more details to explain everything. But my understanding is as long as we do our part of the other comparison, that covers it.
Well, it almost sounds like it'd be 50% match if we're doing half the road, they're
Yeah.
doing half the road.
That's
So
what
I don't
It
know.
may be something, I read through the application, I couldn't find the other, there's several things you have to do. You have to put signage up and, so there's more to it.
And obviously, we're not obligated to do anything if we don't receive the
No,
grant.
I mean, you're just gonna apply for it. My question to you is, this will be done after July 1st. So you have the option of applying, we need to put it out for bid, first of all, get pricing on it. But do we wanna just bid the crumb rubber part of it? Or my suggestion, we might think about bidding the complete road, so whoever's bidding it has the opportunity to do the whole area together. And that wouldn't affect our asphalt bid, other than that money would come out of that money.
You get them to bid that road, and then if this grant come through, you would take that half and put it on another road.
It would just be tied to this, their bid would just be if this grant comes through.
Yeah.
Which we wouldn't have to do it that way, but I'm just thinking if you're gonna have somebody bid it, they might be a little more competitive. And
They get to bid the whole road. If they get to do the crumb rubber and the regular asphalt both.
So it doesn't take a special applicator or anything to
It's
do
just,
that?
It's just a difference in the material mix.
they just have to get this material from my understanding last year is they get this material from the state, and I think there's different oil, but they mix it in their regular batch, and then
Is it on the same thickness as regular asphalt?
it has to be, it can't be over 1.5 inches. But yeah, that's what, they want it done the same. They're cost-wise, it's supposed to be about the same, they say. They're just testing to see if it holds up. It's supposed to have better traction, not crack as easily, so,
Will this be the first in Simpson County?
yeah. Last year when I talked to them, they had not done one in this area for several years. The closest one that's been done in the last couple of years was Hart County. So the guy told me they were looking for a course, like I said, they only have enough money to do 5 or 6 of these in a year, so.
How is the one in Hart County holding up?
I haven't talked to him, he just told me that that's the closest one they've done.
I'm all for applying for the grant. Obviously, my only question is if in 2 years it's just falling apart, I mean, do they compensate anything?
That's a good question. If we talk to the folks in Hart County and they say, man, this stuff fell off the road in a year.
We can find out.
I mean,
sure.
we wouldn't have, even if we apply for the grant, if we find out this material's just not up to par.
Well, we could find out before we apply for it, because we have to label first. We just have to bid, we have to be, what I'm looking for now is if we're gonna do it, we need to go ahead and publicize for bid.
Oh, I'll
And
move to-
need to decide if you wanna do just that or do the whole road.
I'll move to let the Public Works Director apply for this grant on his discretion after talking to Hart County if he thinks the material is.
From what I've been, the man in the state told me it's worked well.
Okay.
So they had no problem, and I haven't talked to anybody that's actually used it other than.
All right, so Marty's got a motion to authorize the application of the grant and judge executive to sign any necessary documents pending the road supervisor's discretion as to whether it's a good material after investigation. That pretty much sum it up. Second by Scott.
Do you want to include within this motion to authorize for the bid, or do you want to do that separately, or wait till after?
I guess we could just wait and see if we even get the grant.
I think you might want to wait till he makes his investigation.
Yeah, and make sure we're authorizing for the bid to do the road.
Just wait.
You don't want to wait.
It's gotta be done by first, so we don't need to.
Would you,
If we need, do we need to put it in there authorized for the bid on the
I would
ballot?
say so, because you're gonna wait 2 more weeks.
would you amend your motion to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we're including at his discretion.
That's fine.
Anyway,
So, yeah, Marty said he would amend his motion to include the bid. Scott, you're good?
Yep.
Okay,
Is this gonna do for the complete road of both surfaces?
yeah.
And just so anybody that's watching or hears this, that major hole on that road will be fixed very soon because I talked to Bobby about it. And the issue that was keeping them from doing this is going to be solved this week is what I was told.
Very good.
Okay, so we have Chandler and Post.
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Scott Poston.
Yes.
Nathaniel Young,
Yes.
Myron Murphy,
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. All right, moving on to financial business, gentlemen. You had an opportunity to review the budget transfers. We just need a motion and a second to approve those.
Motion moved.
Second.
Motion by Nate, second by Myron.
I got a question.
Okay?
On the one on the Justice Center, maintenance and ground, is the state still reimbursing us? Is that still a pass-through?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Excuse me, through the receipts, and of course, it's just tracking low, so there's been, a couple different projects going on, and this $6,200 was reimbursed back to us. And of course, it was an expense unbudgeted, so that's why.
That was my understanding, but I wanted to make sure that that's, in case anybody asked me.
Yep.
Ready for vote?
Yes.
Nathaniel Young,
Yes.
Myron Thurman,
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Scott Poston,
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. Next, gentlemen, if you had an opportunity to review the bills and claims, we would need a motion and a second to approve those claims as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Myron, second by Nate.
Myron Thurman,
Yes.
Nathaniel Young,
Yes.
Marty Chandler.
I do have another question.
Okay.
There's I've noticed at least one that is double listed, like the county clerk postage is listed at the top and then it's listed again. But it's showing the same account number. Is this just a duplication at this time for some reason, or?
It's different amounts though.
Let's see, 775.
For passport.
Yeah, I'm not sure what.
It's the exact same amount in the account number and everything.
Well, and it could,
Because they asked for it 2 different days, 2 different times, their postage machine ran out of postage.
Okay. I mean, it wasn't about the amount, it just caught me off guard when I seen it.
yeah.
Looked like it was double listed.
Run out, so right now until because we've already sent the check off and everything a couple weeks ago, or last week.
Okay.
I'm having to send out passports, and they're $7.75 apiece.
So
I didn't know if we was having a computer issue that was showing duplicates on there for some reason, but I'll still vote yes.
You're okay?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask that, this didn't look right.
Scott Poston,
Yeah.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. Next, gentlemen, if you had an opportunity to review the January 31, 2020 financial statement, we'd need a motion and a second to approve that pending audit and authorize the judge executive and county treasurer to sign that document.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Myron, second by Nate. Any questions? Okay.
Myron Burns,
Yes.
Nathaniel Downing,
Yes.
Scott Poston.
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. All right, moving on to reports. I don't really have any. I opened up an email this morning. If you guys want to take a look at this, there's a listening tour about the state of rural health in the state of Kentucky. It looks like the closest one to us is Hartford County. It's an afternoon meeting. If any of you want to go, let me know and we'll make arrangements to get there somehow. But that's really all I have. Marty, have anything?
No.
Nate?
Nothing.
No. Scott?
Had the opportunity to go into the United Way banquet here a couple of weeks ago, and Fiscal Court was presented this award for the Community Impact Partnership Award for the 211 call center.
I appreciate you going to that too. I think Sam went also.
I did.
Marty was out of town. Myron was a little under the weather, and Nate and I were already in Lexington that evening. For the County Judge Executives Conference, we weren't just out running around. We were in Lexington for the County Judge Executive Conference.
Sure you were.
All right. Myron,
No.
you have anything? Counselor?
Yes.
Okay.
Couple of things, one of which, of course, it's getting later in the year, and for taxes, and so at the end of this month, April's coming fast. Everyone quit being late and be delinquent, and please go pay at the sheriff's office. His fine deputies will help you out and get you squared away. It'll be cheaper than after April 15th when it goes to the clerk's office once they're delinquent. So please get the chance to pay those. Second item is, a couple of weeks ago, they had the county judges and magistrates conference. Last week there was a county attorneys conference, and one of the things that was brought up, there's stuff you learn stuff you learn outside the sessions, talking to your fellow brothers and sisters who do your job. And one of the things that came up was they've had some issues. When you have 120 counties, there's always somebody having problems somewhere.
It seems like the majority of them do.
Yeah. Well, this came up, this goes in the category of nothing new being under the sun. Marty will remember this probably, but about 10, 11 years ago, I went to one of my first conferences and had the bejeebers scared out of me because my counterpart in Boone County, which is right across the river from Cincinnati, had to sue two of his magistrates because they had a stipend they were getting from the state to run committees, and they were taking the money, but they weren't running their committees, and therefore the standing committees. And so he had to sue them to get the money back for the state. The Attorney General's office commanded him to sue them. Obviously that went over, get the money back, and if they don't give it back, sue them. Of course, that went over real well with this fiscal court, particularly those magistrates. There are a lot more lawyers to run against a county attorney in Boone County than there are here, but still, I came back and told Judge Henderson that, and he kind of turned about as white as I did, and so I had to talk about it. So I'm coming back here because that's rearing its ugly head yet again. So if you all are wanting, I'm not here to ask any questions. I'm not here to do a whole lot of digging. What I am here is trying to sound a warning bell here. Either don't take the money or have your committee meetings once a month. If there's nothing going on, you can immediately adjourn and go home. But if you're taking the money, you gotta go and go to the meetings at least once a month. If you don't want to fool with it, great. Don't take the money. Because if you do and you don't have your meetings, you know, they're going to have me say, Sam, golly gee whiz, you're going to have to write your master an ugly letter about paying money back. I don't want to do that. And if you don't pay the money back, I got to do something even more unpleasant and sue people. And it's not that I have a choice. The AG's office tells me, thou shalt. And it's like not thou mayest or thou canst, it's thou shalt. And so please, please, with sugar on top, either make a decision to not forego the money, the stipend, or please, please, with sugar on top, do the monthly meetings. And I'm supposed to start keeping up with that. So I'm probably going to call the fiscal court office and ask, well, the meeting's been going on this morning, they've been conducted. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm trying to avoid hard feelings and problems down the road. This is the ounce of prevention beating the pound of cure. So I'm asking y'all, please, please, if you're not meeting, I'm not asking, but if you are, if you need to start meeting or not take the money. And I'm sorry, it's just, I'm trying to avoid a problem. So that was one of the big alarm bells that was sounded last week by a bunch of us sitting around talking, because that's going on across certain parts of the state, and I don't want it going on here. Sorry to be the bearer of unhappy tidings. On that happy note.
Does that wind you up?
That concludes my report.
I won't hear no more reports from him.
Okay.
I don't want to give it
I do have someone for the fire chief whenever he comes.
Okay.
Or whenever it's his turn.
I think I have said this, I know I have to my office staff, and I think I have to all the department heads, but kind of in that vein, is you hear a lot of the stuff in the hallways, in between the sessions and the meetings. You know, over 60% of the judge executives were all brand new last year, and now we're all back there this year, a year old, and talking about this and that. And the majority of those guys that are in the position I'm in, that just have 1 year as judge executive, all had numerous complaints about their office staff and their department heads and not doing this and not doing that. And I was very thankful that I was able to stand there in those conversations and honestly say, we don't have those issues in Simpson County. I have a great office staff here at the courthouse. We have great department heads that do a great job, and I'm very appreciative to what each and every one of you do. And was very appreciative and thankful that I could stand there with all honesty and say that to these other guys that were evidently experiencing headache and heartache. But anyway, thank all of you, because you do a great job. Moving on. Jailer, you got anything for us? I'm not bypassing the county clerk, she's just not in attendance.
I think that means yes, he's coming
I
up.
see him making his way up, so I take it does mean yes.
I'm just going to add on to bad news, but I do want to mimic what you said about your staff. I'll say the same thing about mine. It happens across the state in every agency. You know, I hear the jailers afterwards.
Honestly, I think we're doing good in every department in Simpson County.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're fortunate. I mean, we're all fortunate in that area. So that's something to be proud of. As y'all know, our budget was set on 268 state inmates. Right now, we've got a total of 307, of which 256 are state. We've got 52 county inmates right now. I know last week we had over 72.
I was aware of that.
Sir?
I was aware of that.
I mean, it's not a laughing matter, it's just, I'm shaking my head. I mean, everybody's doing their part to make it better, to make it where it flow. It's just, it's not happening, and you need to know what's going on. So, and we did have some expenditures, I'm sure y'all just approved our claims, but we've had to order jumpsuits. The ones that we've got are ripped and torn up, and I did have to make a pretty substantial claim on some new mats. We did do our part as far as paying what we could out of commissary and taking the complete burden off of the county. So we had to borrow mats from Allen County this week. So that's thankfully they're willing to help us, and of course we do them the same way. If they need things and we can provide, we will help. But I just want you to know what's going on in the facility and how things are running right now.
And the unfortunate thing at the Judge Executive's Conference, the issues with the jail was a pretty big topic of conversation there. And the per diem on state inmates was a big topic. And according to the state legislators that spoke at our conference, there is no money at the state to increase that per diem, is what we were told.
You are correct, but there's always a silver lining to every cloud. They're pushing that bill right now. I think they're calling it the jailer's bill. I get this confused, so forgive me. It's either Senate bill or House Bill 128 that they're pushing. There's some significant benefits to the jails that actually have programming, evidence-based programming, which we do. We're basically leading the state in that. I got a call yesterday from Greenup County. Their county judge executive and their jailer is going to be coming down. We're going to try to get them trained, and they're going to get their programs up and going. But this bill, the way it's worded, of course, there's always negotiation in a bill, and y'all know that. But if we show that, or prove that we have evidence-based programming at a certain level, and there's some criteria that goes with it, but the benefits are everybody that's in the program enrolled, we're possibly looking at a $10 per head per day per diem. So that's a lot of money. We've been working hard. Sometimes you look and you go, why do you do this? This is why. We kind of see this coming, or we've been thinking it was coming as a big push. It's got support, and I'm hoping for the best. Probably I would say within the next year, we should start seeing some pretty significant results. We can't stop now. The benefits, it's sitting out there, it's waiting. So, and Sam, if you know anything about that bill, you're free to speak if you want. Maybe.
I'll be blunt with you, that was not one of the bills we talked about last week. We had a couple of our own bills we're trying to push through, and also, like everybody else, we're almost about half of our efforts are on the budget, since it's a biennial budget that's being set. I'm all for it. If you need some help calling somebody to talk about, one of the legislators, let me know and I'll try to help you.
Well, all the jailers seem to be behind this, and I'll just be honest with you. The benefactors are going to be the jails that are working, and I don't mean that in a rude way, but there's some jailers that go in, open the doors, and go home.
So this would be a $10 per diem on folks that are enrolled in these various programs.
Yes, sir.
But we would still be much better off financially if they would give us an extra $10 per diem on the state inmates.
Absolutely.
We're keeping their inmates, and that's what we were arguing up there you know,
I appreciate you arguing that too, because we're doing the same thing.
and they didn't care.
Well, you know what? I don't mean this in a rude way. I'm gonna say this because it's been brought up. If they don't try to help us out a little bit, I mean, I probably shouldn't say this, I'm going to, because it's been discussed. Taking all the state inmates, chain them to the fence up there at KSR and say, y'all have a great day. Now, I'm gonna tell you something. When you got Christian County, you've got us, you've got Warren County, and we can do it, because they're not our state, they're not our inmates. I mean, we can do that. And you got 700 of them chained up, guess what? That will get some attention.
Well, one of the things we did talk about jail stuff is that a lot of jails or jailers are transport officers, because several counties do not have jails, and they're trying to figure out ways to cover costs. That's why they're pushing this bail reform bill so hard. Is a lot for the counties that don't have jails to try to cut costs on transporting and also housing their inmates in another county. And so
we've been called by several to house. We can't take them. We're full. I mean, I could have another 250 inmates paying us if we had the room. We don't have the room. Well, I mean, we're at max capacity. We're going to be where we're at as long as we have what we have. And I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just stating a fact. This is where we're going to be.
And I think, Eric, and this is correct, in the state of Kentucky, prisoner population versus state population, we're like in the top 10 in the United States of having the most incarcerated folks.
I think we're more close in the top 5.
Number 3, I think.
So, I mean, it's a bad situation. Now, with this per diem increase that they're talking about in this bill, that the whole motive of that is to get these guys out. I mean, we got some that are in there, and don't judge me, but there's some people in there on marijuana charges. Guess what? Marijuana's not our problem anymore. That is not our problem. I'm just being real. A guy on marijuana come in there, sit down, Billy Joe, and don't move. You know what he asked for? A bag of chips and some water. And you won't hear nothing else out of Billy Joe. It's these ones that are on meth and the heroin and all these other stuff that's coming in. That's our problem. That's what's killing everybody. And they come in, and it is not pleasant. They're off the chain, ready to fight, and everybody, I mean, they may be your best friend, but they don't know who you are. So there's your problems. But this bill is to get the lesser nonviolent offenders out and get them back into society, and maybe they can be productive, or actually groom them to be productive. So that's what's going on. I just wanted you to know where we stood as far as budgetary stuff goes. We're way off the mark right now, and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm trying, I promise.
All right, thanks for the good report, Taylor.
Thanks, Eric.
Y'all have a good day.
Sheriff, you have anything to share with us this morning?
No report, sir.
All right. Carter, anything with planning and zoning?
No.
Bob, anything with emergency management? Bobby, anything with road department?
Mike, a couple months ago, y'all approved us to purchase a bucket truck, and we bought one last week. And also the Macedonia Road project, they're ready to go as soon as we get the permit through. It should come through this week.
Good deal. Chief, you have anything to share with us? All right.
We applied for a grant, I don't know, it's been probably a few months ago, from the Kentucky Fire Commission for thermal imaging cameras. We applied for a lot of grants, just, we cast a lot of nets and see what we can get. So we were awarded the grant, and here's the caveat. It is like a partial matching grant, they gave us $3,200 grant to purchase a thermal imaging camera. The last one we purchased was about 10 grand. Prices have, kind of come down a little. What I'm asking for today is $4,800 to purchase a thermal imager. we could purchase some cheaper models unless we're not really bettering ourselves. I would, if we're going to do it, I would rather just get the one that we need that will replace our main unit that it tore up about a year ago. And again, 10 grand for that, I wasn't really inclined to pay that, for what it was. We're looking at a different brand that has a lot greater technology.
How long was the other one in use, Chief?
A little over 10 years, or about 10, I guess. These things.
It's not operational now?
No, we looked at repairing it, and it was, I think it was more than half of the cost to replace it. And again, we actually, we kind of spec'd out a few different brands. We kept that same brand, and their technology just hadn't really, it wasn't what I thought it ought to be. It just really hasn't changed a lot in 10 years. We looked at some that are, they're a little lesser known models, I guess, but the technology was there. You can imagine, technology changes a lot in 10 years as far as that kind of stuff goes. But, these things take a beating because they're on our equipment. We're inside, beating around and stuff.
And just so I understand, because I don't know, but when you say thermal imaging equipment, it's like if you approach a building, you would actually be able to look to see where maybe there are people.
Sure, yeah, it does have that ability. It does a lot of different things, but the main unit just has a lot more features in it. So when we go in, yes, it detects heat signatures, so different levels of heat. But it does a little more than that. We can use it outside as well, like light ballast goes bad. You can generally tell the heat difference if one of them is going bad. So troubleshooting when we get those smoke calls or, that electric smell call, we go out on a bunch of those as well. Long story short, where I was going with this is this particular grant requires us to purchase it, and then it is a reimbursement. Okay. The training prop grant, they just send us a check, which is great. Didn't really have to do a whole lot. So what I'm asking for is $4,800 to purchase this, and we will be reimbursed $3,200 through the grant. So, we would be out $1,600 for a $4,800 piece of equipment.
So it's 75%, right? Basically.
It's
Gentlemen, y'all have any questions about? Is that a transfer? We can make that work.
Yeah, if y'all just kind of back it up and approve it in with your other transfers at $4,800, and I'll pull it from the $9,200, $999, we'll just transfer reserve into a fire equipment account line item. And then what will happen is, once we get all that worked out and where the reimbursement comes in, or I've got it on the schedule, when we do the next amendment, we'll amend that.
Back.
3,200 was the grant
So
that was
we'll amend
awarded.
that 3,200 back in and make that work with the budget.
Do we need to amend the budget transfers now on $4,800?
To add up, yeah.
I'll move to amend the budget
Or just
transfers.
in addition to the budget transfers to add.
I guess we could make a motion to purchase it and to amend the $4,800 into the budget transfer.
I would suggest two motions.
Okay.
One to purchase and one to change.
That's what I was thinking, Sam, was to do that way you've got it in the.
Right, it's just cleaner that way.
All right.
So I'll make a motion to amend the budget transfers, today's budget transfers, $4,800 from the line items that Nicole just said.
All right, so we got a motion to amend the budget transfers to reflect the money to purchase this thermal imaging equipment. Second by Scott.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Scott Poston.
Yes.
Nathaniel Downing,
Yes.
Myron Thurman,
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. So the next one should be pretty easy. We need a motion to purchase the equipment.
So moved.
Second. Do we need to add in to be reimbursed, the $3,200?
I think that, the grant's awarded. We just.
Yeah, we've got a letter. We're a little bit of a time crunch. We got till, I think, April 30th, which seems like a long way away, but we actually have to purchase it, pay for it, do the cancel checks and all that, and they have to have it back by then in order to, make sure everything's good, so.
So Myra, you want motion to be to purchase the equipment, to have it meet all the parameters of the
Right.
reimbursement grant?
Who was the second?
Nate was second on it.
Yeah.
Myra Thurman,
Yes.
Nathaniel Downing,
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Scott Poston. Mason Barnes.
Yes. I guess that is one blessing of technology. Prices tend to come down over time.
Tend to, yeah. Thank you, gentlemen. Did you say you had a question?
Yeah, just in case it came across my news feed that we're under a burn ban. Right now, it's a state-mandated burn ban.
Okay.
And I
very good.
wanted you to explain that.
Yes, thank you
In case
for that.
anybody's watching.
Yes, so every year there is a spring and a fall hazard season, and that is the state of Kentucky puts that on. It's not Simpson County, that is a state law. So what that says is, if you are burning within 150 feet of a woods or a brushy area, I would take like a standing bean field or something of that nature. If you're burning within 150 feet, you have to wait till after 6 p.m. to burn. So 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Okay? So if you are not, if you had you got a wide open field with a sinkhole or a brush pile out in the middle, then you're fine.
Okay.
And again, that is a state law. Those are kind of designed for the heavily forested areas in like eastern Kentucky is really where that is kind of what that was geared towards, but it does apply. So that is.
Still need to call.
I didn't make that law. That is a state law. Let me be clear about that.
Still need to call dispatch to report.
Yes, absolutely. Please, if you would just let dispatch know, that does help us because it does. It at least, if somebody does call 911, they can look and say, hey, there is a controlled burn out in that area. And then that kind of lets us gauge how we respond. That way we may not be coming full bore to a fire, and then we get there and, you guys are out there with a bulldozer and a track hoe and doing everything that you're supposed to do. So thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Chief. Bill, maintenance, I know it's noted here, you've got a report for us.
Gentlemen, I handed out a sheet this morning. I understand it was already on the portal too, so you probably already had a chance to look at it. What you have before you is the estimate. Remember, this is an estimate only of getting the Ditmore building down on the ground and hauled off. There's only 2 items on here, and it's the first 2 items that are not an estimate. Those are actual figures that the testing has already been done. We took 8 samples, and out of the 8 samples, the only one that was tested positive was 117 East Kentucky. And when me and Mason first looked at that property, we knew right then that was going to be a problem because you could see it. They had taken the carpet up, and there was some 9-inch tile. And you can almost bet your life when there's 9-inch tile, it's asbestos. That figure's a little high, but there's quite a bit. And the bad thing about this, you can take the tile up pretty easy, but that glue that holds it down, the mastic, has got more asbestos in it. It's like 3%, and the tile's 2%. So there's more in the glue than there is the tile. So special solvents have to be used, and they have to create a negative pressure on the building and blah, blah, blah. It goes on, how they have to get it out. So that's why that's a little bit more than I actually was planning for. But you just never know when it comes to that. We've had some asbestos projects that were less, and we've had some that were greater. It's just something we got to do to comply before we can take that stuff out. The equipment rental, I got with Public Works, and Bobby suggested that we get a track hoe, a bigger one than anything they have, and a ram hoe to bust up the concrete. Some of the floors are concrete, some of them are wood, and I'm not sure where there could be concrete under them too. So we may have some issues there. The roller, for the gravel is only if we need it, if we find that after we get it, the gravel, the concrete up is real loose and we need to pack that down before we put a finished grade on there, we'll have to get a roller. If you look at the dumpsters quote, I checked with 3 different dumpsters company, and number 3 provider there is who we currently use, and they have the best price. In fact, it was over $100 per dumpster to have that done. So when you look at all the rest of them, what I figured here was actually a 3-ton haul off, so we'd actually have a price to compare by, because some of them were kind of hard to understand, because like number 2 provider, they have a $159 delivery fee, then they have a haul fee, and every time, if you get 2 dumpsters, they'll empty that dumpster for the same amount every time. But if we've got room to get a 3rd dumpster and we're filling up fast enough, we get another dumpster, we're gonna have to pay that $159 for that extra, for that other. Every time we get a different dumpster, we pay that $160. I feel like provider number 3 is gonna keep us